Sham Sharadava Nalali Daloka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalali Daloka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunana Vasya Vande Gurashi Charana Ruvrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunana Vasya Vande Gurashi Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romanchakam Pasu Taranga Vajo Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramajanado Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanama Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatavapi Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasada Satana Truptan Kridaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Gavayarapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Gavayarapara Madhurya Leela Pratikshana Dhanalalupasya Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Vande Gurashi Charanara Ne Kunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Vir Jukti Apekshaniya Ne Kunja Yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Vir Tatrati Daksha अतिबलवस्य वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् सख्याधरितेन समस्तशास्त्रे रुक्तास्ततव गतैव सर्वे किन्तु प्रभोज प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुतपि यस्य प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुतपि ध्यायां स्तुवं तस्य दशत्रिसन्ध्यां वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् ध्यायां स्तुवं तस्य यशत्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरुश्री चरणरविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य नित्यानंद गदाधर शिवासादि Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hariyaraye Namah Krishna, Jadavaye Namah, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namah, Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra, Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Sitaram, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Pramanande, Hari Hari Haribo. Jai Vishwapara Paramansa Prabhajagacharya ISKCON Pratishtha Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Srongni Gaura Priyajana Krishna Prema Bhakti Datta Abhacharvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Vargapati Udhari Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sadguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai आनंद कुछ वैष्णव वृंद की जाए प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जाए जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जाए जय परम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृणावतार की जाए गोलोकेर प्रमदान हरिनाम संकीर्तन जय की जाए जुगो धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जाए Brihad Midanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopina Radha Kund Samakund Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajabim Vrindavan Mathura Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Shri Radha Nilamadhava Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakradham Ki Jai Parama Karuna Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smasvadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कर सिंगरे भगवान की जय जगंगा माय जमुना माय की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा धारानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौरी प्रमानंदे all glories to the assembly bodies all glories to the assembly bodies all glories to the assembly bodies all glories are glories 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 to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga, Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Dala Dadaine Hiranyakasi Purvasa Sila Tanka Nakhalae Sila Tanka Nakhalae To Narshima Par To Narshima Yato Yato Yami Tato Narshima He Narshima, Hirade Narshima, Narasimha Madim Sharanam Parpade, Tava Kara Kamalavare. Nakam Adbhuta Shinga Dalita Hiranyakashipur Tanu Bringa Keshavadhirta नर हरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधीरता नर हरि रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जयो लक्ष्मी नरसिंहा जयो भक्त प्रहलाद भक्त प्रहलाद भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद जयो जयो गुरुदेव 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिम्हा भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय शिला प्रभुपाद की जय और प्रमाण दे
Jai Shri Hari Bol Gong Shri Vendai Tulasi Bhakti Kesava Sadda Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattva Vendai Tulasi Bhakti Kesava Sadda
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Hey Abhilashi 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 Je tomar sarana loy Tara vancha purna hoy Tomar sarana loy Tara vancha purna Kripa kori toro tare Vrindavana vasi Kripa kori toro tare Vrindavana vasi Morae Abhilash Bilash kunj dhiyo Nayane herivo sadha Yugal ruparasi Nayane herivo sadha Yugal ruparasi Ei nivedana dharo Sakiranugata koro Ei nivedana dharo Sakiranugata koro Sevadhikara diye Koro nijadasi Sevadhikara diye Koro Sevadhikara diye karo nijadasi Sevadhikara diye karo nijadasi Na Krishna dase koy Ei jena mora Ya Krishna dase koi Hey jena mora Shri Radha Govinda preme Sada jena bhasi 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 Tulasi Krishna preyasi namo namah Tulasi Krishna preyasi namo namah Nani kani cha papani Brahma hatyadikani cha Tani tani pranashanti Radakshina pade pade Brahmahatyadikani cha Tani pranashanti Pradakshina pradipade Kani kani shapapani Brahmahatyadikani cha Tani pranashanti Pradakshina pradipade Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani 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 Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya
Vishnu Bhakti Pradivedi Shatavataye Vrindai Tulasi Devai Jayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradivedi Shatavataye Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradivedi Shatavataye Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi
Oh, Tulasi.
That is it of the service to Shiradhan. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence, pleasure girls of Sri Vrindavan Dham. That's within my vision. I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavati angels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me own that servant. Very fallen and loaded servant Krishna. May I always sing in love Shri Radha and Govinda. Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanamajanam Bhavamahadavanimiravanam Shri Akari Chandika Haripadam Purnamritasvaram Sarvatmasnam Param Paravijay Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namaka Harivaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitta Nimitta Shmarane Nakala Etadrishi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamati Durdhaivam Idrisham Yajani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Adhanam na Janam na Sundarim Kavitam va Jagadishaka Maye Mama Janmani Janmanishari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahituki Tvai Ainandatanu Kinkaram Paritamam Vishame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Parapankaja Stithadhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nanam Galarashudharaya Vadinam Gadagadharudhaya Gira Pulakayin Chitam Bapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavisyati Yugaitam Nimishena Chakrusha Prabhusaitam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahiname Aslishava Padaratam Pinashtumam Adashnar Manmahatam Karotuva Yatathava Vidadantu Lampatu Matpranatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sri Krishna Ki Jai. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the primary benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested with all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a Lord and strong and straight, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in a world of your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Ki Jai. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pacharani Nirvisesa Sunyavari Paskatya Satarani. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To blaspheme the devotees who are dedicated their lives to propagating the holy names of the Lord.
2.
To consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master.
4.
to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuant to the Vedic version.
5.
To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord.
7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities or karma kanda.
9.
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
10.
To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivinoda Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Varacharya Visesavaskatya Sadhaya. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Grave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapatantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pajikamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Shah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Shrimate Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Satarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamini Shivasavani Videvi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Primadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Maste Dorvani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishwaraya Sakshat Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Murasakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jagannathayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurusvase Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhaktasaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantar Adakantar Namostate Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Mandamater Gati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madanumohano Divyat Vinduranya Kalpatumadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanostito Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamanos Marami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Swanir Gopir Gopinatak Striyestrana Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasat Masako Pariksha Laksa Vritesa Surabhira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanandam Arvinda Dalayataksam Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Chibanga Lalitani Taprakasam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanancha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantashta Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayora Tapi Manaso Muni Bungamanam Sopyastiyat Papadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitam Jagadanda Koti Gaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Brahmanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitaistavanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Pratibhavitabis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menatistan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvane Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhuto Jagaranda Koti Kotis Vasesu Vasadadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Jaigunya Tad Visayavida Vitayamanam Sattva Vulambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasuya Praninam Pratifulam Smaratam Upekya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tade Chitasya Devi Maheswari Dama Sutesha Tesha Tete Prabhavani Chaya Vitarstayena Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shastistati Pralaya Sadhava Saktareka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichanu Rupam Apyasya Chichesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesi Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Heto Sasambhutam Apitata Samapaitikar Yat Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Eva Dasantanam Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivitayete Samadharma Yastadra Geva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Smamurtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahatsa Yasya Kalavisheso Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yas Basman Yatasma Sakaleshana Jesa Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvadatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vyantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Muruti Sascha Kalas Tatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savitasa Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Resesha Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmoto Papa Nichaya Sutayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagava Deyasta Jiva Yadata Matra Vipava Bhakala Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopa Matavendra Mahusva Karma Pandana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani dahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajam Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biddhi Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurav Sevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrasim Tanamapurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajam Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purisha Kalpatara Drama Bhumis Chintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kataganam Nadyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyastaki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apita Daswadyam Apicha Sayatra Sirabiti Shabati Surabi Byasti Suman Nime Sardak Yuvavrajiti Nahiya Trabisamaya Bhaje Svitabitipam Tamaham Ihegolakam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Viracha Katipa Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam She promised me to Kijay, Sri Guru Vastaka prayers Kijay. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I, for my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such spiritual masters, an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind. Sometimes his hair stands on and he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet as such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. But the Lord, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and stuck. When the spiritual master sees it, the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada. He is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Spiritual master is very dear because he has gopis who at different times make different tastes and arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana. From a most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Spiritual master to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most competential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, verse number 37. Kimva Kritageshvagam Yamarsi Bimo Hivadir Gatamam Vyamunchat Yasangripatam Ranaburna Sehe Margam Gadayas Charato Vichitram. Kim, whether, Va, either, Krita, perform, Agnesu, unto the sinners, Agam, angry, Ati Amarshi, unconquerable, Bhima, Ahivat, like a cobra, Dirgatamam, long cherished, Vyamunchat, has released, Yasya, whose, Angripatam, putting on the steps, Ranabhu, the field of battle, Na, could not, Sehe, tolerate, Margam, the path, Gadaya, by the clubs, Charata, playing, Vichitram, wonderful. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Vidura knew the strength of Bhima, Whenever Bhima was on the battlefield, his steps on the path and the wonderful playing of his club were unbearable for the enemy. Powerful Bhima did not take steps against the sons of Dhritarashtra for a long time. Vidura's inquiry was whether he had yet released his anger, which was like that of a suffering cobra. When a cobra releases its venom after long cherished anger, its victim cannot survive. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path. This is a very revealing verse, because previously, when Draupadi was stripped, or they tried to strip her, in the assembly hall, where all the great Kshatriyas and also sages were present, it was like the worst kind of insult to the Pandavas to strip their wife naked in the assembly of all these august people. And nobody said anything. Dhritarashtra did not try and stop it. Bhisma did not try and stop it. And the Pandavas' hands were tied because they had lost their wife in the gambling, and that was because Sakuni was cheating. They didn't lose legitimately; they were cheated. Now Bhima was ready to kill the Karna and Sakuni. Karna was dragging Draupadi by her hair into the hall, but Yudhisthira forbade him to do that. And Prabhupada talks about this because the reason the Pandavas were able to prevail in the Battle of Kurukshetra and through all their travails, all their difficulties, was that they always deferred to Yudhisthira. They never contradicted him. They might not have agreed with him. Definitely, when Draupadi was being stressed, they didn't agree with him. But out of respect for him, because he's the elder brother, they did not break ranks. That's the word you use, break ranks. And therefore, Prabhupada gives the example that if you have a bunch of sticks tied together, you try to break it, you can't. But if you take one stick at a time, you can break each one. So unity is very important, and respecting superior authorities is very important for being successful in any endeavor. But we're living in Kali Yuga, so people love to argue, disagree, and be insubordinate, whether it's the karmis or even amongst devotees. They love to argue endlessly and break ranks, refuse to cooperate, and so forth. Now, you can't cooperate with someone who's doing something sinful or something against the principles of Krishna consciousness. But if a person... Now, the question, was Yudhisthira doing the right thing by not trying to save Draupadi? Some people say no, he should have, protected her. It's his wife. But out of respect for Dhritarashtra, who he considered was like his father, Dhritarashtra was not his father, he was the brother of his father. But the See, there's different etiquettes in the Vedic tradition. Nowadays, nobody follows any etiquettes at all, or if they follow something, it's for show rather than real. But here we see that, just like in Krishna consciousness also, the godbrothers of one's guru should be respected like the guru, exactly like the guru. This is not often followed. Sometimes it is, but not all the time. That's a sign of Kali Yuga. And the same thing, that the brother of one's guru should be treated, well, the brother of Pandu was Dhritarashtra. So therefore, following the proper etiquette, Yudhisthira did not take any measures against Dhritarashtra. So we see that this restraint, this what you would call restraint of Bhima and Arjuna, both of them were ready to kill Karna and Sakuni, but out of respect for Yudhisthira, they deferred to his decision not to do anything. So that's why Vidura is saying, please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long-cherished anger upon the sinners. Now, of course, it's the most sinful thing to try and strip the wife, especially such an exalted, saintly woman as Draupadi, in front of all those big guys. It's very, very insulting. And Bhima was fuming, angry. He was ready to kill them, and he could have killed them. But he held back. And Vidura says, powerful Bhima did not take steps against the sons of Dhritarashtra for a long time. Vidura's inquiry was whether he had yet released his anger, which was like that of a suffering cobra, when a cobra releases its venom after long cherished anger. It's a little bit of a oxymoron. Long cherished anger. Cherish means something that you like or you love, right? Well, in one sense, it is long cherished in the sense that he's saving it for the right time, and it's going to explode like an atomic bomb, right? He's not forgetting. He's not forgiving. He's sticking to his guns. He's going to blow them away when the right time comes. He's just waiting for it, right? So that's what it means. Long cherished anger, right? And therefore its victim cannot survive. And there's no doubt about it. Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, they were sinful. Even Bhisma Pitamaha was sinful not to stop the whole thing, right? And that's why he had to die. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. It's a very interesting statement. See, if you choose the wrong side, whatever happens, I mean, you get tainted by the sin of the wrong side. Let me just find this very interesting verse in Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, okay, sorry. E-H-I. E-H-I.
The highest morality is choosing the side of the Lord.
Yes. Okay, so 11th chapter, 49th verse. 11th chapter, 49th verse says in the purport, you have been perturbed and bewildered by seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free again from all disturbances. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desired. So, in the purport it says, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhisma and Drona, his worshipful grandfather and master or spiritual master. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When the sons of Dhritarashtra tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly of the Kurus, Bhisma and Drona were silent. And for such negligence of duty, they should be killed. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the four-armed form, and Krishna showed him. So you see, that means that Bhisma and Drona, because they didn't stop Draupadi from being stripped, they had to be killed. Right? And they're good guys, but they're on the wrong side. Now why is Bhisma on the wrong side? Bhisma knows who Krishna is. He knows he's the original Narayana, the Supreme Personality God. He knows the Pandavas are going to lose. But he was duty-bound by a promise he made to his father and his mother, that he would always protect the Kuru dynasty. And he also made a vow to be celibate his whole life. He made that vow when he was very young, so that his father could marry Satyavati, and then so he was duty bound. Now, is one duty bound to do something wrong? Duty bound, and because of that promise or that vow, they're forced to do something wrong. So this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. I have to find that verse. Let's see where it is. Yeah. And these are difficult points to figure out. Okay, so okay. Let's look at this. All right, I'll find it later on then. I'll just try one more time. Okay, I'm going to have to find it later on. So, one is, in another place, it says that when one makes a vow and they're in a situation where if they keep their vow, they're going to cause harm to someone else, they're not obliged to follow the vow. And there's an example of that, which there was once a sadhu who had made a vow to always tell the truth, and he was his place where he would do his meditation and mantras and everything was near a very rich man's mansion. And one day some criminals came to kill that rich man and steal his money. And the rich man knew it, so he was hiding with his family. So then the criminals came to the yogi and they said, "Sir, can we please ask you a question?" He said, "Yes, what is it?" He said, "You have made a vow to always tell the truth." He said, "Yes. Can you please tell us where the rich man and his family are hiding?" So he told him. He knew where it was. He saw them leaving the house and hiding somewhere. So they went and killed the rich man and his family and stole their money. So years passed by, and eventually the yogi dies, and instead of going to the spiritual world, Yamaraj takes him to hell, and he protested, "What's going on here? Why am I going to hell? My whole life I was doing tapasya and meditating." He said, "Yeah, but you caused the death of that rich man, so you're going to go to hell." He said, "Well, wait a minute, I had a vow to tell the truth." They said, "Well, but you caused the death of these people, so it doesn't matter whether you have a vow or no vow." Right? So that's a famous story in the Shastra, and therefore we have to be very careful about what we do, especially what vows we take, because we can come into a situation where, like the yogi, where we might have to tell a lie to protect somebody's life. You see. Okay. And this also, tested by Yudhisthira, who also had a vow of honesty and truth. And when Krishna asked him to say that Asvatthama is dead, he didn't want to do it. He hesitated. And then there was an elephant named Asvatthama, so he said, "Asvatthama, the elephant, is dead." Right? Because of that, he had to go to hell also. He didn't stay there forever, but he had to go to hell and see his brothers there. They were not really in hell, but it was an illusory manifestation as a punishment for him. And he went first to the heavenly planets, not to the spiritual world, the heavenly planets, and he saw Duryodhana on a throne in the heavenly planets and all these sinful people. And he was, bewildered. And then he was taken to hell and he saw his brothers in hell. He had to go through that because he had hesitated to follow Krishna's order. Okay, so let me see if I can find that again, because it's a very interesting quote. Let's see. Where would that be? Taking a vow. Oh, no, I'll find it later on. Okay, so now we go to the next verse. Text 38. Kaschit yasoda ratayutapanam Gandhi vadanvo paratariraste Alakshito yacharakuta Maya kirato girisas tutosa. Yeah, my throat is still hoarse from chanting too much. Okay, so Kaschit, weather. Yasada, famous. Rata Yutapanam, amongst the great chariot warriors. Gandiva, Danva, bow. Uparata, Ari, one who has vanquished the enemies. Aste, doing well. Alakshita, without being identified. Yet, whose? Shara Kutagudaha, being covered by arrows. Maya Kirata, false hunter. Girisha,
Grisha,
Lord Shiva,
Lord Shiva,
Tutosha,
Tutosha,
was satisfied.
was satisfied.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva, and who is always famous amongst the chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows when Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Shiva tested Arjuna's strength by picking a quarrel with him over a hunted boar. He confronted Arjuna in the false dress of a hunter, and Arjuna covered him with arrows until Lord Shiva was satisfied with Arjuna's fighting. He offered Arjuna the Pasupati weapon and blessed him. Here, Vidura inquired about the great warrior's well-being. So we see that Arjuna is an unparalleled, brave and expert fighter. It's his nature. But he only fights legitimately, not for aggrandizement of others, wives or property or money or anything like that. So when he was challenged by this hunter, he did not shy away, even though that hunter was Lord Shiva himself. And when Lord Shiva saw how valiantly and expertly Arjuna confronted him, he was pleased with him, and he gave him the Pasupati weapon. Now, this Pasupati weapon is indomitable. In other words, you can't resist it. It's a very powerful weapon, and that was part of Arjuna's arsenal of weapons. Okay, so are there any questions about these two verses? If not, we're going to proceed now. Yesterday I did not finish what I was
Hare
talking
Krishna.
about. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, so Bhishma also aware about Shastra. So why he didn't protest then? I mean, so why he didn't protect?
Okay, yeah, I didn't answer that question yet. I said I was going to answer that. Well, I did answer it. No, Bhisma was duty bound to protect the Kauravas. He was duty bound. He had promised that he would do that. And also, Bhisma was living in the palace with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. In other words, maybe he wasn't living there, but he was there every day, and he was eating their food. So when Bhisma was on the verge of dying, and he was on a bed of arrows. In other words, these arrows had pierced him. Arjuna shot him with hundreds of arrows, and he was like stuck to the ground, right? He was a little bit off the ground because the arrows went through him and stuck to the ground. So, and he waited like that for weeks until the battle of Kurukshetra was over. He was incapacitated after the 10th day of the battle, and it lasted 8 more days. And then there were all the funerals, and then they all came to see him leave his body. But by the time they came, there was no flesh and no blood. He was just bones, but still he was alive because he was a Mahayogi. Now, he explained at that time that regretfully he didn't do anything because he was duty bound, and he was still eating the food of Duryodhana. But now he no longer had the flesh and blood and organs, so he could speak the truth because he was completely all the influence that went into his body was now washed away, and now he could, and he does speak the truth. He explains that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He explains what is Raja Dharma, the duties of an ideal king to Yudhisthira, and he teaches him the Vishnu Sahasranam Sutram, right? That he should recite on a regular basis, chanting the names of God.
So he was under the influence of Maya while he was in that duty. Even though he knew the truth, he couldn't apply the truth.
Right. So it happens to many people. They know what's right, but they can't follow it for extraneous reasons, for different reasons, right? So, those are what you would call very difficult situations, right? Where you have contrary, let's say,
Dharma Sankata, they say.
huh?
In Sanskrit, it's referred to as Dharma Sankata.
Okay, you can't do the right thing.
Yeah, like the duty.
You're contrary.
Contrary, or like difficult to make the
Yes.
choice.
Yes, exactly.
Maharaj, in this case,
Yes.
if you are into such a difficult situation, then just take the Krishna side, and that is the right thing to do. That's my understanding. If
Ask Guru.
okay.
Right? Whenever you're in doubt,
Doubt,
you should
ask
ask
Siksha
Guru,
Diksha.
right?
Yes.
And Guru will give you the answer where Krishna has already answered that question, right? And show you the Shastra behind it. If you make your own decisions in a situation of confusion, you could make a mistake, right? At least you should hear what is shastrically, recommended. All questions have been answered. It's just a question of knowing where they're answered, right? Okay, so yesterday I wasn't able to finish what I wanted to talk about, and that was this Mayavad philosophy, and in this, and especially Sadananda Yogendra, who basically did not follow his guru, Sankaracharya. And therefore, I read yesterday where Prabhupada says if Sankaracharya came today, he would be shocked by the Mayavadis, what they're preaching, because that's not what he taught them in the Sarirak Bhasya. So, not only he said Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, but also, we read yesterday in the book, right, The Search of the Ultimate Goal, that there is something beneficial in the Sarirak Bhasya. He said, they do, however, preach something that is not only, wait a minute. He said yesterday, the impersonal conception of absolute truth, as propounded by the so-called Brahmavada school, falls short of spiritual progress from its first step. Sankaracharya's impersonal conception of Brahmavada had some meaning because he emphasized renouncing material activities. So there's something good about it, right? His ideal example of renunciation, as personally practiced and taught by him, has great significance for the demoniac people of the age of Kali. But the present impersonalists do not follow Sankaracharya or the Shastra. They do, however, preach something that is not only absurd from all spiritual points of view, but is the start of material enjoyment, which they try to cover with the red garments of renunciation. In other words, by dressing as sannyasis, they pretend to be renounced, but actually they're not renounced. Okay, so Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 7.101, it says, this is the discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Prakasananda Swami in Benares, where Prakasananda is trying to convince Lord Chaitanya to give up chanting Hare Krishna because that's for sentimental people, and take to studying Vedanta philosophy. Right? So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection. Mayavadi sannyasis accept that the commentary by Sri Sankaracharya known as Sarirak Bhashya gives the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. In other words, Mayavadi sannyasis accept the meanings expressed in the explanations of the Vedanta Sutra by Sankaracharya, which are based on monism, or absolute oneness. Thus they explain the Vedanta Sutra, the Upanishads, and all such Vedic literatures in their own impersonal way. In other words, they use this Mayavad philosophy to interpret Bhagavad Gita, Vedanta Sutra, the yoga, the different Vedic scriptures, Mahabharata, and they make a mess. They've created havoc by doing this. The great Mayavadi sannyasi Sadananda Yogendra has written a book known as Vedanta Sara, in which he writes Vedanto Nama Upanishad Pramanam Tad Upakarini Sariraka Sutradini Cha. According to Sadananda Yogendra, the Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads, as presented by Sri Sankaracharya in his Sarirak Bhashya commentary, are the only sources of Vedic evidence. Well, that's not true. That's a false statement. Actually, however, Vedanta refers to the essence of Vedic knowledge, and it is not a fact that there is nothing more than Sankaracharya's Sarirak Bhashya. Because Sankara wrote the Sarirak Bhashya, up until that time, which is approximately, I think, 1,200 years ago, no one had written a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Why? Because the commentary was already there. It's Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra, wrote the commentary, right? And the proof is he starts the Srimad Bhagavatam with the initial question of the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now let us inquire into the nature of the absolute truth. And then he answers that in the introductory verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The inquiry into the supreme absolute truth is Krishna, the supreme, wonderful or beautiful personality of Godhead, right? And then he says Janmadasya Yata Niviyad, and so forth. Janmadasya, the second aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra is Janmadasya. The supreme absolute truth is that from which everything emanates or comes. So now he names him right in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. The person from whom everything emanates is Sri Krishna. He is the fountainhead of everything. So there was no need to write a commentary, but Sankaracharya writes a commentary, and everyone thinks, "Oh, that's the most important. This was necessary so we could understand Vedanta Sutra, which is very, let's say, rigorous and mathematical and rational." But actually, he misled everyone. He didn't write a real commentary. Vyasadeva did, but he didn't write a real commentary. But because he's advertised as, the first person who wrote a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And so most people think, and then his disciple says, only his commentary is valid. No other commentary is valid. But after him, great Vaishnava Acharyas also wrote commentaries. Madhvacharya did, Ramanujacharya did, and one Vaishnava great Acharya also did. So this is a false statement by Sadananda Yogendra. There are other Vedanta commentaries written by Vaishnava Acharyas, none of whom follow Sri Shankaracharya or accept the imaginative commentary of his school. Their commentaries are based on the philosophy of duality. Monist philosophers, monist means the ones who are espousing or setting forth the idea that there's absolute oneness. There are no jivas, it's all an illusion. There's no Krishna, the person. It's an illusion. There's only Brahman. That's it. Nothing beyond that. So that's what the monist philosophers like Shankaracharya and his followers want to establish that God and the living entity are one. And instead of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they present themselves as God. They want to be worshipped as God by others. Such persons do not accept the philosophies of the Vaishnava Acharyas, which are known as Suddhadvaita. Suddhadvaita is professed or represented by Vallabhacharya, or the Pushti Marga, and it was and it's in the Rudra. It's in the Kumar Sampradaya, and then Suddhadvaita. Suddha Advaita is purified monism. That's one. Secondly, Suddha Advaita, purified dualism. That's purified dualism is represented by Vishnu Swami in modern times, and it's the Rudra Sampradaya started by Lord Shiva. These are the four main sampradayas of Vaishnavas. And then that's called purified dualism. And then Vasistha Advaita, specific monism, that's the philosophical explanation set forth by Ramanujacharya. And each one of these acharyas wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra after Shankaracharya to correct him. And then there's the Dvaita Advaita, represented by Nimbarka, which is monism and dualism. And then there's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva by Lord Chaitanya. And then after that, there's Kevala Advaita by Shankaracharya. Kevala means absolute oneness. There's no such thing as jivas and varieties, and even Krishna is a jiva. He's not the supreme absolute truth. The supreme absolute truth is just the Brahman, nothing else, and it's all one. There's no varieties in it. So that's the philosophy of the Mayavadis. Accepting the system of philosophy as the pure understanding of the Vedanta Sutra, they believe that Krishna has a body made of material elements. This is the Mayavadis. This is Sadananda Yogendra. Krishna has a body made of material elements, and that the activities of loving service to Krishna are sentimentality. In other words, it has nothing to do with real knowledge. It's just sentiment. They are known as Mayavadis because, according to their opinion, Krishna has a body made of Maya, and the loving service of the Lord executed by devotees is also Maya. So they think devotional service is Maya. They think Krishna is a Maya. They consider such devotional service to be an aspect of fruitive activities, karma kanda. According to their view, bhakti consists of mental speculation or sometimes meditation. This is the difference between the Mayavadi and the Vaishnava philosophies. Well, it's a pretty big difference. Right? Now it continues. That was Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 7.101. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 7.114. Again, it's going to talk about Sadananda Yogendra. And the verse says, Shankaracharya, who is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, is faultless because he is a servant carrying out the orders of the Lord. But those who follow his Mayavadi philosophy are doomed. They will lose all their advancement in spiritual knowledge. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, Mayavadi philosophers are very proud of exhibiting their Vedanta knowledge through grammatical jugglery. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna certifies that they are Mayaprita Jnana, bereft of real knowledge due to Maya. Maya has two potencies with which to execute her two functions. The Prakseptatmika Shakti, the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence, and Avaranatmika Shakti, the power to cover over his knowledge of the living entity, of the living entity. I'm sorry. Maya has two potencies with which to execute her two functions. The Prakseptatmika Shakti, the power to throw the living entity into the ocean of material existence, and Avaranatmika Shakti, the power to cover the knowledge of the living entity. The function of the Avaranatmika Shakti is explained in Bhagavad Gita by the words Mayaprita Jnana. Well, Mayaprita Jnana is in the 7th chapter, and it occurs in the verse
7:15, 7:16.
I think it's 7:16. Let's take a look. Okay, 7:14, 15. Yeah. Namam duskritina mudha prapadyante naradama maya prita jnana asuram bhava asrita. So it says, this Mayaprita Jnana is the third line of the verse, and it says that the jiva's knowledge covered by Maya is synonymous with Avaranatmika Shakti, and that is synonymous or means the same thing as Mayaprita Jnana, which means that one's knowledge is stolen by the illusory energy. Okay, so you see, you learn Bhagavad Gita if you look up all these things, right? So then it says, why the Daivi Maya, or the illusory energy of Krishna, meaning the material nature, takes away the knowledge of the Mayavadi philosophers, is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita by the use of the words Asuram Bhavam Asrita, which refers to a person who does not agree to the existence of the Lord. So that's the atheist. So that is also 7:15. Okay, so we'll stop right there. We'll finish this tomorrow, because there's a whole bunch more things I have to talk about. This Mayavad philosophy. But if we understand these things, then we will not be misled, and we'll be able to recognize a person to be a Mayavadi by a little bit of their speech. And you immediately you'll detect that this person is a Mayavadi, right? So it's very, very good to have that detective power. Otherwise, you might make friends and associate with a person like that for years without understanding how dangerous they are, right? Okay, are there any questions? Okay, then we'll have, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, there is one online question.
Yeah.
It says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, even on the Vaishnava side, why do we need so many commentaries if they all know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Because there's different Vaishnava sampradayas. So their gurus or their founders wrote commentaries to help their disciples understand. And there's very slight difference between like Dvaita, Advaita, and Advaita, and Advaita, Dvaita, and Achintya, Beta, Beta, Tattva. It's but they all accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the acharyas of those different four sampradayas have written commentaries to debunk Sankaracharya's Sarirabhasya. And basically it's Sadananda Yogendra's Vedanta Sar book, which is, he tries to prove that Sankaracharya's commentary is the only valid one. There's no other commentary valid on Vedanta Sutra. Well, you have four Vaishnava acharyas who have written, debunking of Sankaracharya's Sarirabhasya and Sadananda Yogendra's Vedanta Sar. So why are there others? Because these are acharyas and they have a right to instruct their disciples. That's why. Okay, so who's going to sing? You going to sing? Yeah. Those promises.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandha Mohi Savadhana Mate
Bandho Mui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite
Krishna Prapti Ho Yaha Hoite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koriya Aikya
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Chakshudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Chakshudan Dila Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gyan Hirde Prakashito
Divya Gyan Hriday Rakasito
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jaite
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Aviyavinasa jati.
Vede gaye jahara charito.
Vedigai Janaratarito.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu.
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adana Janara Bandhu.
Lokenath Lokera Jivana.
Lokenath Lokera Jivana.
Ha ha Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pada Chaya.
Ha ha Prabhu Koradoya Deha More Padachaya.
Ebe Jas Gushuk Tribhuana.
Ebeas Krishaki Bhuvana.
Prabhupada Patita Pavana.
Prabhupada Patita Pavana.
Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavani Paskatya Desatarine.
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam.
Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajana Chasta Tarasata Shri Shimad, His Divine Grace. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikahosha Krishna Chaitanya Pavanichananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories to the Assembled Divinity. All glories to the Assembled Divinity. All glories to the Assembled Divinity. All glories to Shikuru and Shikuranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The spiritual master. The lotus feet of the spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain to pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mat. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my dark.